Hey guys, it's Dan from ShastaBubba Adventures, and today I'm going to show you my brand new Enlightened equipment Enigma quilt, and I'm also going to compare it to my older quilt, my Enigma from 2015. There have been some really significant changes that have been made to the Enigma in that time, and in my opinion it's taken the Enigma from just a slightly above average quilt to maybe the top of the line, perhaps even the best quilt on the market. So stick around so I can explain what I'm talking about. My new 2021 quilt is a 950 fill power, and I went with the long and extra wide and 0-degree rating. The total weight is 32 ounces. I also got a draft collar, and that's one of the changes, that wasn't even an option before. My old quilt was an 850 fill power and 10-degree rating, and it was a long and wide size, and the weight is 27 ounces. One of the design features that have been changed on the Enigma is that they changed the strap buckles, and that might sound like a very small thing, but it's actually got a significant impact. What they did was the old Enigma had female buckles on both sides of the strap, but they changed that to a male on one side and female on the other, which means that the Enigma can be buckled to itself and not needing to have the strap, which is a great option for a super cold night where you really want to cinch up tightly. One trick of that is that you do have to be mindful of how you put the strap on the pad. Because it's not interchangeable anymore, you have to be mindful of which side the male buckle is on. A second change that they have made is that at the neck area there is now 2 snaps, whereas there was only 1 on the old Enigma. I can't tell you yet whether that makes a significant difference or not. I haven't really needed to use either one of the snaps yet. I imagine it would be more secure, but quite frankly I never had problems with the 1 snap on the old Enigma coming apart, so not sure how significant that change is yet. Incidentally, I should mention that I'm not normally a big fan of the color red, but I did choose that for the external part of the quilt, and that's really just a safety feature, because if I ever am incapacitated in the woods and searchers are having to look for me, I want to have a nice big red flag like this that I can lay out so I would be easier to find. So the biggest change of all is that the Enigma now is 30% overstuffed for the temperature rating. Basically, if you buy a 10-degree quilt, there's 30% more down in it than there used to be. Now, temperature rating is kind of a tricky thing to talk about because really it's such an idiosyncratic issue. It depends on so many individual factors like personal preference, but also things like what pad you're using, the location of your camp, even what food you ate before you went to bed. So it's really kind of subjective, even though it seems like it's an objective measurement. I've always considered myself to be a cold sleeper. Back in the day when I used to use sleeping bags, I always went with a 0-degree bag. So that just gives you a bit of an idea of where I'm coming from. Now, my old quilt was used for approximately 15 nights a year over a total of 6 years. I always slept in it with full polypro and night socks, so even though body oil gets into the down, and that was one of the things that degrades down, I think I probably minimized that. So I do think it is something worth discussing. I'm curious to find out your opinions about if you feel like 6 years and 15 nights per year does that seem like a reasonable lifespan for an ultralight down quilt or not? Bottom line is, the reason I decided to get a new quilt is because my old quilt wasn't keeping me warm anymore. It was to the point where even at 45 degrees I was having to wear my puffy coat, and that just didn't seem reasonable anymore. So that's when I decided to get a new Enigma. Now, I personally am a big fan of Enlightened equipment, and I think they do great work and have really good people there, and I want to support them. And in full disclosure, I should say that this new Enigma, they sold it to me at cost. So I do have a bit of an interest in giving a positive review. But if I'm going to be completely honest, I think that it's true that the old Enigma was understuffed. I think that's the only real explanation for why just 6 years later, it's not doing its job anymore. However, I believe it was in 2016, Enlightened equipment bumped up by 10% the amount of down that they added per temperature rating. And in 2019, they bumped it up by 30%. So in my opinion, that brought them not only up to average, but far above average now for the awesomeness of this quilt. And I've had it out just 4 nights so far, but one of those nights was down to 28 degrees. And not only did I not have to use my puffy, but I was only wearing polypro and a light fleece pullover and nothing on my head. And I was just fine, toasty warm at 28 degrees. The Enigma has received a massive upgrade, not just a little, but a complete redesign that makes it, in my opinion, one of the best quilts that you can get, really on a par with Nunatak and Katabatic. And in fact, the reason I say maybe this is the best quilt that you can get is Nunatak and Katabatic don't even offer a 0-degree quilt. They only go down to 20 or 15 degrees. So taken all in all, that's why I think you can make a reasonable argument that the Enlightened Equipment Enigma is the best quilt on the market today. Now we should talk about price. In my case, I got all the bells and whistles, which made it the most expensive possible option that you could get. And it was $565, which is a lot of money, although that is on par with all the other big elite brands of sleeping bags and quilts. However, I do really want to stress that if you are not like me, if you are a normal sleeper, and maybe you backpack in warmer climates than I do, if you can get away with something like a regular length and regular width and a 850 fill power for a 20-degree bag, that's only $315. So this really excellent top-of-the-line quilt can be had for a bargain price if it fits your type of hiking. Now, in fairness, there are some cons that are worth quibbling over, and one thing that is not really a con of the quilt, but just when you get to this degree of quilt and this amount of down, it just takes more space in the pack. My old stuff sack, I would put my Enigma quilt in and my down pillow, and I could even get my down pants in the same stuff sack. This quilt won't even fit in there by itself, so I've had to switch to a larger stuff sack to put the down quilt in. Not much of a problem really, and one I'm happy to accommodate. One little thing that does bug me about the Enigma is that the string for the cinch cord around the neck comes out in the middle of the quilt. Now, that just doesn't make sense to me, because when you tighten that up, all this extra string sits right in my face. And I don't know if you're as picky as I am, but that really bugs me, and I keep having to flick it out of the way. Luckily, there's an easy fix for that, and I've already done it here. And basically, you can just snip the covering of that cinch cord and just guide it out. I like to do it about 25% in from one of the edges, and I've put a barrel closure on that to cinch that up. That's one thing. The new Enigma, the old one, had a barrel closure, and it was simple to just take that off and put it into the new place. This one has a fancier one. It's kind of a push button closure, which I actually kind of like, but unfortunately I can't figure out how to take it apart. So I think I'm going to have to destroy that in order to get it off, because it doesn't work to cinch it from one place if you got that in the middle. It works just fine to cinch it from one place if there's nothing in the way. So that's a pretty minor kind of thing to complain about, but it's thankfully a pretty quick and easy fix. Okay guys, let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are about the changes that have been made, and if you have some thoughts about what the average lifespan should be of an ultralight down quilt. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.